In today's show, we discuss, has multiculturalism failed? So is mass immigration doomed, therefore? So what do we do next?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah. What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
So I'm going to ask you to say hi to our audience. Go on.
I know you are.
Give us a
I know
smile.
you are. All week, I know you're gonna come and say hi to our audience. Hey, hello, audience. What the hell?
Yay! We get there, kicking and screaming. We get there now.
The lucky ones die first, I tell you.
Oh, dear me. I love to see. Tayo loves to see me cringe, but I love to see him squirm when I ask this question. Our audience out there, our listening audience must be waiting with bated breath that he comes along and says hello. That's the whole highlight of the show.
I wasn't going to, but I'm going to pour myself a drink.
Oh, okay.
This is...
He can't deal with it.
I can't deal with it.
Whilst Tayo is suitably refreshing himself with a nice drink, I will ask our wonderful audience out there to continue to send in their comments and their feedback. We do get to them eventually, so please continue to do so. From whatever platform you happen to be on, we will get there and respond. So please continue to do that. Right, moving on to today's show. Today, we're discussing multiculturalism failure. Is mass immigration therefore doomed? And where do we go from there? Tayo, you came up with this. In fact, you came up with a longer heading for this particular show, and I shrunk it down a little bit, but I don't know whether I've still kept the essence of the show there. So do you want to kick things off?
No, because I've forgotten why I came up with it. No, okay, so what happened is there's a long, I hope your memory is good.
Oh no, I'm getting older, so no. Don't test me, please.
Do you remember? Well, I'm going to. Do you remember that I said, I think I've said it more than once, that my fear about the government and society suppressing questions and concerns about immigration was forcing such concerns underground where it would fester and could metastasize into something unpleasant and dangerous.
Indeed.
Well,
if you don't allow free speech, then you're right. It can do exactly as you say.
Exactly. Now, I've just read recently, I'm going to look for the link so we can share it with the audience. I've just read that the government, I believe there's a department, which I'd never heard of, which it sounds like it's called the Department for Equality or something along those lines.
Okay.
It's to fight inequality and racism and that sort of thing. And they have written to a charity which gets toys and sends toys to poor children.
Okay.
Poor white children.
Only
white children. Only white children.
And that's a stipulation that the charity uphold?
Yes. So this organization, this government department, is written to them to say, we believe you're breaking the law. And the defense of the charities, well, why are there charities for black children or for Asian children?
The specific a demographic that they
okay. Yes. And why can't white children have their own? Which I think is a valid question.
Indeed, it is.
And I think for me, I might be wrong, but I think even as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think that would ever have come up. I would have been very surprised to have heard about this. I heard of such a charity 4 years ago. But I'm not surprised now because I think the level of immigration has got to the point, and it's not just immigration, it's multicultural
Ism.
immigration.
Mm.
No, not ism.
Okay.
Multicultural immigration has gotten to the point where it is actually becoming an insult to the natives.
But isn't immigration multicultural anyway? Because it's a
No.
different culture
No,
coming into your country.
because what it used to be was you would come into England, let's say in the 60s and the 70s. I wasn't here in the 80s, so who knows what happened then. But in the days that I'm aware of, those people who came into England, number one, they would come in legally. That was the first thing. You weren't expected to just rock up on the shore and say, hey, hello, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, when you got here, you were meant to integrate.
Okay. And assimilate into
society.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, someone got the bright idea that no, you don't need to assimilate. I don't understand how push has come to shove and it's come to this. And the other reason I came up with this topic was because I am teaching. I seem to be specializing nowadays in in teaching troubled students. So I do I less often in the classroom, more often sitting face-to-face, one-to-one with the students. And generally speaking, in fact, entirely speaking, they are troubled students. This particular young man wants to go into the army. He wants to join the armed forces.
Okay. And what's wrong with that? That's
absolutely
a good thing, surely.
He needs discipline. It will help. He doesn't have. I'm not going to give his name, so I can't talk about him. He very unfortunate family background. So he's had a very, very unstable upbringing. In a quick aside, I mean, it's a matter of interest. No, it's a matter of information rather than interest. It's a matter of information. I didn't know this was possible. He was adopted by a woman, single woman. I don't know why that happened. He was adopted by a single woman, and at the age of 5, when he was 5 years old, he was adopted when he was 3, I believe. When he was 5, the woman met a man who didn't want any children, so she dumped him.
She dumped the child?
Yes. No, wow. I thought once you were adopted someone, I thought it was permanent.
It is. So how can you dump the child?
Yeah, she just told the social worker, just come and fetch the kid. I can't have him anymore.
Is she sure she wasn't fostering the child
rather
than adopting the child?
No. Because after that, he went to foster homes.
Well, that can happen as well with fostered children. They can be temporarily put in a home.
Foster children, we understand that is fostering.
Yeah.
But adoption is different.
Yeah, it is different. That becomes the child becomes legally your
you can't.
I can't say that it's. I
don't want this kid anymore. Come on,
adopted. It's your child. Yeah.
Anyway, I've checked with his carers, and that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, his has an unfortunate background. Okay. And
that's a side issue to our topic, but
no. I'm trying to say because of this unstable background, I feel the army is good for him.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get him to concentrate better during classes and to really start exerting self-discipline so that he can get pass a few papers and earn some certificates in GCS, earn a few GCSEs, because you don't need to earn GCSEs to join the army.
No,
you can go in without them. However, once you're in, you are almost certainly cannon fodder. It is far better to go in with 3, I believe it's minimum 3 GCSEs. Then you can fast track onto an officer's training course or something, and then
as long as you've got some education, yes.
You have to have some education to go forward. And I can do that within 6 months. So I told him all this. I did some research, And I went back to him and said, okay, this is the situation. You really need this. And he took that on board and now he's working harder. So, job well done. However, I found out whilst I was doing the research that to apply to join, he wants to go into the Marines to be specific. In order to join the Marines, you have to apply through, guess what? A private company.
Why?
Well,
is the Marines a special?
No, actually, sorry, to join the armed forces, but to join the Marines too. You have to apply. You don't apply to the armed forces, which you and I would have thought that's what you do. If you want to join the army, you apply to the army. It's common sense.
Of course.
No, there's a clearinghouse that you join, and it's a private one. It's a privately run one, and it's relevant to the topic of the show. So I'm not really going off point here.
Okay.
And the application takes 400 days.
400 days.
400 days on average.
To join the army?
Yes. And it's on the website. If I can remember the website, I'll look it up too.
This sounds absurd, but okay.
It turns out, according to people who criticize the system, that the reason for the delay is that the company, because that's what it is, the company is doing everything in its power to diversify the army. It's looking for non-white boys and girls. Now, white girls will do, but preferably non-whites, preferably non-Christian. And they've got a quota to fill. The trouble is, and the relevance to our discussion today, the trouble is that a very little percent, I believe it's like 2.6% of the army is Muslim, because Muslims don't naturally apply to the British Army, since the British Army seems to spend quite a lot of time bombing Muslim countries. So it's a kind of
Stands to reason if that's the case.
Really. You don't want to be caught in a Muslim country trying to bomb them in British uniform. I think bad things would happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, whilst representing, I believe it's 7% of the population, 7 or 8% of the population, which seems too low, by the way, but representing only 0.5%, I believe, if I remember properly, joined the army.
Why? And do we know why?
Because they are not invested in the corporate entity called Britain.
Right. So what we saying here? People are just not applying, or is there a quota where people are applying but they're being rejected because of the quota?
I'm saying that multiculturalism means that you have a huge number of people in this country who say they're British but don't act British and don't feel British and aren't prepared to fight for Britain. That's what I'm saying. Multiculturalism, I'm saying, using this set of facts, if that's what you want to call it, or this point of view that I'm laying out to you, using that point of view, I demonstrate that multiculturalism has failed. You have people in this country who, although they say they're British, they're really not when it comes down to British in the same sense of the people who put on the uniform and went to World War I, World War II, or the other wars. Earlier wars. They went to fight for their country. Nowadays, you wouldn't get that. So this gentleman's idea.
But what does that mean? Okay, let's rewind a little bit. What you're saying, because I mean you made some interesting points there. But what does it mean to be British? First off, you say they don't feel British. Well, what is being British? What is it?
All right. I guess I'm answering for myself, but I believe I should also be answering for people like a gentleman that I don't think you like him, but I do send you his videos from time to time. Jeff Taylor.
Jeff Taylor.
He would, I believe, argue that being British is feeling British, identifying with the people and the history of this country, being loyal to the system. You don't have to be a monarchist, because a lot of British people aren't,
Okay.
but you are loyal to the system at any rate, which is to say there is a constitutional monarchy and there is a system of government involving the House of Lords,
Okay.
Houses of Parliament, all in all, and our governance structure.
Well,
And
but most people would define themselves as British based on those criteria. There was wasn't there a famous person who said in government, I believe, in the Thatcher years, and he got chastised for it because he said a lot of people tick the boxes, but if they were playing cricket, would they support England?
and
Now,
you jumped in. So before I go finish,
yeah,
and would cheer,
yeah, England losing,
no, and would cheer for Britain for a British team,
yeah,
as against cheering for another team. So, for example, if for myself, I could cheer for Britain or for Nigeria. If Britain and Nigeria met in a match, I would sort of be quiet and I'll be like, well, someone is going to win, and I'm going to identify with the winner. Because why would I identify with the loser? So whoever won, do you understand? That is how I would resolve my cognitive dissonance in that situation. But there are others who would wholesale say, nope, I'm supporting the Nigerian team. Or the cricket team against Pakistan, nope, I'm going to support. Well, in that case, I put it to you, you're not really British. If you could do that, you're not truly British. If you can't join the British Army and go and fight for Britain, you're not really British. That would be my
well, there's a lot
test.
of people who are British who wouldn't go and join the British Army because they just don't believe.
Conscripted by
Well, indeed, if you're
idea.
conscripted and you're of age to do so, then yes, by being a citizen of the country, then you're mandated to do that. There's nothing you can get around. You're born here. You may not even be relate to British culture, but if you're born here and they bring in conscription because we're at war with another country, you've got no choice. You've got to go. Otherwise you'll be locked up. That's part of the law of the land. But what I'm saying, I mean, what you're saying in terms of the playing in Nigeria, I actually had that. I can relate to that. I had
Italy.
that. Yeah, this very weekend.
Oh,
I was in Italy to watch the rugby, England v Italy. Now, obviously, I've got Italian heritage, but I was born in the UK. And I went there and sat on my hands because I didn't mind who won, if I'm honest. And it was a very close game in the end. And it was great because I went there for entertainment purposes. Normally, strangely enough, I actually support both because I want Italy and England to win against whoever they're playing. But when they play against each other, then I'll sit on my hands. I'm not fussed who wins. So it's a strange one and it's an odd feeling.
It is an odd feeling.
But
it is an odd feeling.
But does that make me British? Do you see what I mean?
It does. It does make you British because if you had gone in there and then you had been totally pro Italian or pro Italy, and I'll put it to you, then you don't really identify as being British. So your cognitive dissonance actually shows that you do feel British and you feel a loyalty to this country. Now, what I'm saying is that there are people who live here who don't even speak English.
That's a problem of
and don't have a loyalty to the country. They're not loyal to the country.
Agreed. That's wrong. And
that is where I say multiculturalism, and this is what Jeff Taylor would say, multiculturalism has failed. They see Britain as being run by a bunch of saps who they can take advantage of to come here, get money, send money home, and by the way, crookedly.
And that's making a leap.
No, I know somebody.
Everybody.
Okay, not everybody. Not everybody.
Indeed.
No. I'm just saying that we know that the benefit system should be tightened up considerably.
Indeed.
But it's not being so, and this is where I want to go.
But there's ways and means around it. Look. I mean, I don't think they want to.
I don't think they want to.
They don't. They don't want to.
Because I believe there's a conspiracy behind it.
Really?
Well, yeah, that's why I thought this might have been a conspiracy show.
So
Because
you're a conspiracy regarding why they're not fixing the benefit system.
I believe there's a conspiracy why it's not fixing the benefit system, and it's because it's being used like as a honey trap. They actually want people coming here. Look, people coming on boats. If you wanted to stop the boats, you really could stop the boats very straightforwardly. People land on the shores, you round them up, take them to a detention camp, sneak them in the camp, give them bread and water. When they tell you where they come from, you take them back to Libya or somewhere that you've made some agreement with. Libya is a good place to take them to because it's all chaos. You could carve out a place in Libya that, we could carve it out because the Libyans couldn't defend themselves and actually hold that territory. And that could just be some kind of free zone where you just take people back, dump them in Libya and say goodbye
Yeah,
and
but
good
that's
luck.
making an assumption they're all, from Libya.
Yeah,
You don't know that.
No, you're not making an assumption. You're just saying we don't care how you got here. This is where we're going to drop you off and take you back. You do that to one boat, two boats, nobody else comes.
Well,
It's
look at what's happened with this Rwanda policy.
Mhm.
We've paid Rwanda as a country £100 million, and not one single immigrant has made it over there because they're challenged in court.
Yeah, good deal. So
because they're saying it's unlawful.
yeah, and that's because we belong to the EHCR.
Well, it's not. That's not a European Court of Human Rights. That's a world thing. You know that, don't you?
But
Because
EHCR,
the European Court of Human Rights isn't European it's not to classed as European.
No,
it's
but
just where it's
it.
located.
Yeah, but we belong to it and we don't have to, right? Because that's what.
Well, let's put it this way: if we didn't, we'd be only one of 5 countries in the planet that weren't.
So what?
Our standing,
what
standing,
and
our respect,
what respect
in the world
this
would
is a joke,
evaporate.
Man. We've just been taken to the International Court of Justice by Nicaragua for supporting Israeli.
I know. The international order is taking a battering over this conflict because
no. I'm saying you're saying that you're saying that Britain's reputation
in the world, yes, reputation.
Yes, in that British reputation will be done. British reputation is in tatters. We've been the tail to the American dog for so long that our name is mud. So let's not pretend that by leaving the HCR, it's going to tarnish.
It will. It will just put a nail in the coffin.
I think it's already been nailed very firmly into a coffin already. So that's not a problem. And it's called it's called the European Court of Human Rights. I don't know why you get this.
No, it is European Court, but it's nothing to do with the EU, for instance. It just happens to be in Europe. But member countries, there's all of them, apart from a handful, literally a handful. There's 212 countries on the planet, and I think less than 10 are not members. Because
I'm just going to send a link here because I don't know. I'm going to read up on it afterwards, and with this link, which goes to the website, the court's website, I'll send it to you and just share that with the audience so that they can have a look for themselves. Because I want to check for myself what you're saying. It sounds very odd to me, and I don't see a single dark-skinned person there. If everyone on the planet belongs there. I don't see any Asians. I don't see anybody. So I question your presentation. You might be right, but you know how we are very skeptical until we've read it for ourselves. So
indeed.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to this multiculturalism thing. If you wanted to stop the boat, you could. Now, I was actually being as politically correct as possible. Tayo's actual solution as prime minister would be to go with all the boats. No. I'm just telling you, that'll be mine. I'll just do that with
the innocent people you would kill.
What? They're not innocent. You're trying to break into someone's country. How is that innocent?
Yeah, but you don't know their circumstances. You cannot say that.
I don't give a hoot about
what they could do is improve the way of processing these people.
I don't give a hoot about your circumstances. If your circumstances are terrible, you go to our embassy in France. You go
You're
to the
sounding like someone with privilege saying, "Oh well, we don't care about you, fodder."
I'm telling you how to do it. If you say you've got issues, you go to our embassy in France. You've gotten to France. We have an embassy in Paris. Go to our embassy in Paris, explain your situation, and let's see if you get it. That's it. That's what I'm telling you. You don't have to pay thousands of pounds to some the trafficker of some sort. Get onto a boat and try to sneak into the
But that's
country.
why it's illegal. Of course, they're making money on the promise that they can get them to the UK because the UK, this is another one to stop our freedoms. They quote, "Oh, we can't have that identity card." The whole of Europe have identity cards. We got caught out by going, listen to this, by going to look around the Colosseum. The Colosseum in Rome. They said, "Oh, yeah, you need ID with video, with card. Have you got your passport?" No. "We got your ID card." No. "We're British. We don't have one." Why? And they needed one. We had to, and one of the guys on the trip had to phone the hotel. The hotel had a photocopy of their passport, which they then had to text to him, which he could then show that get into the Colosseum because they had no other ID. Now, if the police stop you in any foreign European country, they will ask you for ID. And we don't carry it because it's against our human rights. That's why countries, and that's why people come over because they don't have IDs.
Okay,
We don't have ID. So that's one of the reasons we want to be liberal. But guess what? Our borders are open. That's one of the problems.
So for Tony and for the audience, kindly follow this piece of advice. And I'm gobsmacked to hear that anyone thinks they can go traipsing around the world and not carry an ID with them because if you try that in Nigeria, bad things will happen to you.
Exactly. It happens anywhere. But
So
we we feel privileged. White people, English people feel privileged sometimes.
Do you
when
take
they
your
go
phone
abroad.
with you? Do you take your phone with you?
Yes.
Get a little app that wraps up your passport and your license. It's an app. If you like me use the Android system, it's in Google Play Store. I believe it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You have to see an advert every so often.
You can put it in the wallet, can't you?
And there you go. Bada boom, bada bing. Yeah. Okay. So
well, it's not a biggie. I'm just saying I had mine, so I'm okay. But I'm just saying some of the other people on the trip didn't, and it was.
I don't know why anybody would be like that because you should be able to identify yourself at all times. I mean, even in the UK, if you're stopped, you do for something or the other, you do have to provide ID at some point, don't you?
Yes, you do, but not straight away.
Not straight away, but it's also a good idea if you can pull out something and identify yourself.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so anyway, let's not get into what hypothetical Tyre would do as a PM. I would do what I'm saying, and I would go ta 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 ta, and then there'll be peace and quiet. But the bureaucrats will be telling me, no. I'm pretty sure what happens, the politicians go in saying, we're going to do this, and then the bureaucrats explain about why we're doing this. And I believe it comes down to something we've spoken about before, which is population. They basically need wage slaves.
So you're saying we need this number of people to come in.
Well, it may have gotten out of hand, but we certainly need
for other reasons that they're not letting on what they are.
We don't want, that we're not being frank about that. Look,
what do you think those other reasons are? If they're not being officially made public as the reason, so you must have an opinion as to what those could be, surely.
Yes. The enslavement is a very strong word.
Whoa.
But the enslavement of the hoi polloi by a very powerful and very small elite. There is possibly worldwide. I don't want to go too far with this. I'm not sure if it extends to Asia or Eurasia, but it seems definitely in the Anglo-Saxon world, the Anglo diaspora, Canada, Australia, America, the UK, and in a certain, and its affiliates, so Western Europe, there seems to be a cabal very, very high up, very, very small, very tight, maybe like almost like the Bilderberg or something like that. And from there flowing out seems to be an undercurrent of control where, in spite of our so-called democracy, in spite of our democratic freedoms under decades old traditions that we have become so used to that we are not even noticing that it's been taken away from us, that those things have been eroded. And they've been eroded to the point where lawfare, have you heard that expression? It's a wonderful
I
expression.
have, yeah.
Where lawfare, that is to say, using the law as an instrument of coercion instead of as an instrument of justice, lawfare is becoming so common that just today, I heard, I don't know when this actually happened, just today, Joe Biden was acquitted of stealing secrets, state secrets.
Joe Biden.
President Joe Biden was acquitted of stealing state secrets as a senator when he took Senate papers marked top secret or whatever they were marked. He took them and put them in the library. I think when you're a president or a vice president, you end up having some kind of foundation or something, like
you do.
has got them and
Yeah, they're all past presidents all have their own.
right.
Obama's got one, all
Exactly.
yeah.
So apparently he took some papers that theoretically he shouldn't have. The same thing that Trump
did.
has been accused of.
Yeah, but Trump took them home.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden put them in a garage somewhere.
At his house.
Yeah, in the garage.
Wasn't it a locked garage though?
It was so being locked makes a difference.
Well, you don't know that. It's. I mean, when you say a locked garage, I mean you're not talking like a car garage like Trump now. Trump hasn't got a garage that's just on a normal side road. He's got armed security all the time. It's not like your normal garage here. Yeah. It is slightly different. So the risk to the material is very small, but yeah, nonetheless.
The Biden one raised alarm because the building was occupied by legitimate, nobody saying anything, but was occupied by Chinese nationals. So they would have had access to the papers if they wanted, or maybe they did. Yeah. Or maybe they did, we don't know. But the point is, he was acquitted today, I understand.
Okay.
Right? But Trump is still facing those charges, even though, as president, they were all meant for his eyes. So people are asking the serious question, how can something that was meant for you, how can you steal something that was meant for you? Anyway, lawfare.
It's like once you've seen it, it goes, it's got to be securely disposed of or secured. I understand that. That's what happens in certain organizations. You see it, you're aware of it, you agree that you've seen it and understand what the consequences are, and then it's securely put away. You therefore cannot take a paper copy of it and put it somewhere because you've been exposed to that information, you're aware of it, you've full knowledge of it, and that's it. You have to let go of the physical elements of it. So I get that. So even though it was meant for him, he couldn't take it off site, so to speak.
I understand that it is actually the property of the President of the United States of America. Whilst he's president. Afterwards, I don't think it is. So the president can share it with whomsoever he wants. It's his property.
I'm not sure about that.
No,
I'm not sure about that because there's certain powers that the president doesn't even have.
Well, I think we'll argue about that. That's what
state information.
I listen to people who analyze stuff. I don't read. I listen to the analysts argue. So I hear things. It's hard for me to defend myself when you then challenge me and go blah blah blah, because I never challenge the people talking about it. And then I always promise to follow it up, and I never do. But this time, I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow it up.
Write it down so you'll remember. That's one thing you need to do.
The point being that we are losing that we are losing. That we are losing our rights and freedoms. For example, another example, like multiculturalism again. Okay, and this conspiracy I'm talking about. Apparently, 10 million people have just walked into America over the past 3 years. 10 million people have just walked into America over the past 3 years since Joe Biden became president.
From where? From
Mexico? From Mexico through that Mexican border.
10 million.
10 million. And I don't know if you're aware that there's a conspiracy. Today is the 7th of, was it the 7th? 7th of February, 2024. So whenever you're listening to this podcast, or watching it, 7th of February, 2024, find News America, New York City. There's a video going online, you can find it quite easily, of a vicious attack by illegals on a police officer. 6 or 7 of them are kicking this police officer. He's on the ground, and they're pummeling him and kicking him. And 3 of them are caught. They are released without bail on the same day.
What?
They are released without bail. This is New York City.
That does not make sense.
And they've gone to California, and a lot of people are agitating for them to be found and deported from the country. And a lot of other people are saying, what's the point? They'll just walk back in. Right?
Well, why aren't they arrested for the crime of attacking a police officer? That's first and foremost, regardless of where they've come from. That's a crime in itself.
They were, but they were released.
On what grounds?
I don't know what grounds.
Well, that's the bit that's missing here. If they've committed a crime, which is attacking a police officer, and there's evidence to show them perpetrating the act, caught in the act by, I don't know, video footage or whatever it may be, how can they be released? How?
Because New York City has a policy, New York State, I believe, not just the city. New York State has a policy of not holding illegals in prison.
Well, then the policy is completely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Isn't it as ridiculous as letting 10 people just walk into the country?
10 or 10 million.
10 million, sorry. 10 million.
Yeah,
people.
10 million is ridiculous. So, that number just...
To the point where...
Are we sure on these numbers? Are we sure? We can corroborate these numbers, yeah?
We can corroborate. It's not even me it's not Tayo saying it.
That's the whole country. You think the whole of Belgium hasn't got 10 million? No, Belgium has, but Holland has got 10 million people.
Yeah, they all just showed up. And they walked into Texas, and Texas is trying to do something about it. And you are aware, I hope, as our listeners, of the present disagreement between the governor of Texas and the White House. The governor of Texas wants to put up razor wire and protect the border. And what is the White House saying? No. Have you stopped to ask yourself, well, why is the White House saying just let anybody in? What's going on?
See, that's odd. I have to say that is very peculiar. Well,
why are we letting people in? We don't have to. Like I said, if we really wanted to stop them, do you think that Churchill would have hesitated? Margaret Thatcher, can you look me in the eye and tell me that Margaret Thatcher would have entertained this nonsense?
So what is going on? What is going on? Is it that the current population isn't willing to do anything, so they're relying on immigrants somehow, thinking that they're younger, better, able to do stuff in society? Well, I'm trying to get
when they arrive, they will be better able, and then they'll be able to do the jobs that for now need to be done. And at some point, they too will become unable. At least the children will become unable, because their children will be equally spoiled.
Well, are we saying, therefore, that there's an inherent problem in Western society, that by virtue of living in that society, you become a couch potato and do nothing and expect to be served things
Yes.
in life rather
Yes.
than go out and get them yourself and earn it.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that's done on purpose. It's not an accident either.
So,
That
are we saying then we're being
somebody
created as
somewhere.
cows or cattle fodder?
Yes. Thank you.
Cows for what? An alien invasion? Are we
No.
going really
Well,
conspiracy now?
no, I hope it's not. I don't think it's an alien invasion. I just think it's a question of a return to serfdom. Just turn us off into serfs. And I think it's actually working. I look at across Europe. I mean, look at the farmers now. There's a farmers crisis.
Mm.
What is the EU going to do about it? Well, first of all, why is there a crisis? What is the actual problem? Why are they doing this to the farmers? The one
The
that
benefit
control
of our
food.
listeners hearing this for the first time, may not be aware of what you're
Oh, okay, go ahead.
referring to. Do you
You
want
always-
to pick a quick?
No, you always better at explaining than me.
Currently, there's a European-wide ruling that farmers have to give up a portion of their land and leave it to be
To remain fallow.
yeah,
To stay fallow.
That's the word. Thank you. And so that they cannot produce on it and do it, and it's to do with global warming and emissions, to reduce
That's the
emissions, and it's a certain percentage of land that has to be left to go wild. So they cannot market it, they cannot grow crops. People have to move away from the traditional food sources that we've had in the past and move to more, in quotes, green methods of eating, i.e. fabricated and not from the land, so to speak. And the farmers are in uproar because saying they've got no livelihood. A lot of cattle would need to be killed. So that's food being removed out the food chain. And this is a problem, but the European governments don't appear to be listening. We're just letting them fester. And so the farmers
remove the food from the food chain, food production from Europe, and have it outsourced somewhere else.
That's madness.
And
Food
then
security.
and then control who can get it with your digital coins. Exert control, and then see if Tayo or Tony or anyone else can stand up and start making a palaver about some political point that the government doesn't want them to make a palaver about. I mean, if they could throw out Nigel Farage, if they could get his banks to throw him out because of his political views, where are we headed? This is a major character. It's not an unknown member of the public who's got no public visibility. This is a major person, and they just shrugged, said no, we're not going to let him have a bank account. And
what's that got to do with multiculturalism?
well, what I'm saying is that what it's got to do is there's this to me there's a pattern that emerges of a small powerful cabal that is exerting massive cultural pressure to destroy Europe, the West, not Europe, just the West, because this is happening everywhere.
Yeah, but they're doing it. How is this manifested? You could also, if you want to look at it this way, you want to look at
the globalist economy.
Yeah, globalists in here. Who's gaining from this, and how? Because it's the governments doing it to themselves. There's no one seem to be pushing a lever and saying keep your doors open.
Who's doing it? Who's doing it? WEF, the WEF is doing it.
No, the WEF isn't telling governments that the WEF hasn't got any power.
It seems as if the WEF, what the WEF says in this year, becomes what governments do in future years. So if you follow from, I forget his name now, Carl Schwab, is that his name?
Schwab.
Is it
Charles Schwab, isn't it? Charles Schwab?
Carl, wasn't it Carl? Carl Schwab.
I can't remember.
If you listen to what he said in 2011, it's pretty much everything he said in 2011 is what is happening now. So it's not a power.
He's not setting it up, though. He's predicting where it will end up. Surely he's not pulling the strings like a mafia, pulling governments and controlling
This is what he's been accused of.
How?
Well, Mr. Blofeld. For those of
it's
you
not
who
some James Bond conspiracy.
We're looking. Everyone's always so searching for his kitten, the cat on his lap. It's like, where's your cat, Mr. Schwab, Mr. whatever his name is, Schwab. This is the conspiracy. This is the conspiracy. Now, if there is no conspiracy, well, I mean, there is a conspiracy. Something is going on. I mean, you've
So,
said it.
so okay,
But
this is a bigger picture though. But what about multiculturalism itself?
yes,
Doesn't it
exactly.
promote positivity? I mean,
No,
haven't we got?
how can it?
No, we've got some positivity because
How?
because
Nobody
when
ever
you're
went.
mixing with other people, look at
Mhm.
London, for instance.
Mhm.
Yes, there's challenges there, but because everybody is used to everybody, it doesn't matter about your color of your skin, doesn't matter your background, live and let live. And London is very much like that. When you go to other areas where there isn't a big diversity of people and different cultures, if someone walks in, everyone sort of stops. It's like those old Western movies that some stranger walks in and everyone stops.
The
Yeah,
piano stops.
that's the sort of thing that happens when you don't have multicultural environments, because someone who's different stands out,
Yeah.
and they should be different.
When no one owns the city, no one cares for the city, no one owns the city. I would say that the problem of London is that it is the extreme example of no one loving the place or feeling from that place or having a feeling of belonging to that place.
I'm not so
That,
sure. I
well,
think people do. There's a lot of people who are Londoners that love London because,
I haven't
yes,
met any.
it can be dirty at times. Of course it can, but there's so much going on. Why do they choose to stay? Because they enjoy it after all.
Yes.
They
I
could
have
move. Think
asked,
about it. If they're living in
I have asked
London,
Londoners,
yeah,
why do you live here? And they
in
say,
London,
well, I can't think about, I would never live
anywhere
else.
Yeah.
And then you say, have you been anywhere else? And they're like, no.
No, they haven't.
They
That's all
haven't
they
been
know.
anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's a strange one. And the thing is, out of anybody, they could afford to go anywhere else. If they've got a place currently in London, trust me, they sell it. They can buy a palace elsewhere. So in terms of choice, they can go elsewhere, but they choose to stay there. It's
you
not
are
so
the
bad.
one. You are the one who, a long time ago, taught me about frogs. Do you remember what you told me?
Yes.
You put frogs
Hot
into a
water.
cauldron,
Well,
and
it
then
jumps out.
Sorry?
It jumps out when it's too hot.
So you and I, some of our listeners, if they were to go to London now, they'll be like, jump into hot water, and they just go, this is terrible.
This is horrible,
place
and come
stinks.
out. Yeah.
And they leave. But the people in London themselves, they're not aware of just how horrible their situation.
Indeed, they're not aware. You're right. There is. It's the hot water syndrome.
It's the hot water syndrome.
That you sort of, just for the benefit of our listeners not understanding what we're talking about here, if you want to boil a frog, the analogy is you can't put it in boiling water because it will just jump straight out. What you do, you put a frog in cold water and slowly turn up the heat, and eventually the frog is comfortable in the warm. It gets too hot, eventually dies. And the analogy that Tayo is making with the Londoners is that they don't know they're in hot water. They're living in it day to day, and it's not great, but they're putting up with it. When in reality, if they just jumped out, they would enjoy the rest of the UK far more. But that still doesn't come back to multiculturalism.
Right. And before we continue, this is very, very important. No one is saying go home and try that. Do not go home and put a frog into cold water.
No, please don't.
Don't do that, okay? We're not asking you to do that. Don't do it as an experiment.
No, please don't.
No, don't, okay? So we've said that now.
We've
do
said
not.
That's clarified that.
Let's clarify
Right, okay,
that.
going back to the multiculturalism, there's also a lot of creativity that comes from different cultures. So that's a benefit. You're getting innovation because you get new ideas rather than from the samey. So there's a lot of benefits. So you can't.
However, you're talking about the American model. The American model, there were waves of immigration. Now, apart from obviously the first wave, which was, should we say, the outcome was suboptimal for the Native Americans.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Subsequent waves, was suboptimal for the West Africans and the Africans.
Indeed,
that was
great. That was not good.
But subsequent waves came in, and guess what they did? They brought their quirks and then integrated into the greater society.
The quirks.
Yes, their own little quirks, the Irish quirks, when the Irish went in. They took their little island and little quirks, and they took their St. Patrick's Day and things like that.
Yeah.
When the Italians went in, they took their little thing, the mafia.
Mm.
And when the
Yeah.
Germans went in, they went in, and the Philadelphia and places like that. It's amazing how much I know about America. I can't stand the place. Anyway, so each wave of immigrants went in and integrated. It's quite different from what we're seeing in Europe, where their immigrants are setting up little Bantustans.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody knows who doesn't know what a Bantustan is, it's an isolated community within a larger what's
Community, yeah, but
yeah, but heterogeneous community. So this comes from South Africa during apartheid,
yeah,
where the South African whites created little isolated communities of black people called Bantus. Called what? Called again?
Bantustan.
Bantustans. They were called Bantustans, and it's isolated communities inside the larger community, and they don't integrate. That's the point about it. They're kept separate. And what we see here is the Bantustans. Wow, that's a good word. Bantustanization of the UK in particular, that I'm familiar with. This is why the Swedes are complaining, and they've just done something very un-Swedish. When I say just, I mean, I think it was in January 2024. It might have been December 2023. That very uncharacteristically, they've banned the hijab in Sweden, and I didn't think any European country would actually get there. And it hasn't been
France has done it.
Have they? I still see French.
No, you can't have the full face covering in France.
Really?
Yeah. And you also, certain areas, like for instance on a beach, you can't go on a beach in a full headgear in France. They have police that take that off.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So if you've got a full headgear, you're not allowed on a beach. You can wear it, but you can't have your face covered, and certainly can't wear it on a beach. There was a bit uproar about it, but the French said no.
Okay, I didn't think you might be wrong, so I had a quick look, as we like to do here on on our show. Oh well, this is from 2022, so this has been updated. Anyway, I'm going to share it with you.
Okay.
Would you please share it with the
Our
audience?
audience, yes, indeed.
Go.
So what's this information?
Well, this says what are the blah blah blah? What are the rules? Does France have a hijab ban? Answer: no. France does not have a ban on hijabs in public spaces. However, the rules differs when it comes to headscarves and full face coverings.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be confusing because both the full face veil and the Muslim headscarf are often referred to as, well, I can't pronounce it, voile in French. I don't know how you pronounce voile.
Okay.
So I think you're talking about the full face thing, when you can't see the face
covered. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's what a hijab is.
What's the other one then? No, it's not a hijab, is it? It's the other one. I lived in a Muslim country in Nigeria for donkey's years. I should
yeah, there was oh gosh, that's silly. I even had a document that showed me all the different types, and now I've
the burqa.
Burqa, that's the one that can't be worn.
It's a burqa. Okay, so
Not
Tony is right. Okay, so the hijab is not banned,
no,
but the burqa is.
Burqa is. That's
no, I'm not really sure which one Sweden
have banned.
I heard it was the hijab, but maybe it was the burqa instead.
Okay. But okay, let's get back onto the topic.
That is part of it. We're saying that multiculturalism has failed because now, little by little, the pendulum is swinging back, as it always does, and I'm afraid that we're going to have a far right upsurge where the wheat will be swept away with the chaff, because the far right is going to come along and say, okay, you know what? A plague on all your houses, all of you leave.
You could say, look what's happened in Europe recently, and now it's going the other way. Because in Italy, they've just recently had a fascist, almost fascist government. Because
Meloni, you mean Giorgia Meloni?
Yeah,
Oh, she's the equivalent of a rhino, isn't she?
A,
Rhino.
a
Rhino's an
rhino.
American term. You
Go
know,
on. What
you
does that
think.
mean?
Republican in name only. I think she's a final fascist in name only. She said she talks one thing. She talks like a duck, quacks like a duck. What's the other thing that ducks do? Walks like a duck,
Waddles
but
like a
actually,
duck, but is not a duck.
she's no duck. So she's done
I think
very
it's
noble
also
things.
also it's because again by the European ruling there are certain rules to be part of the party, and in order to be part of the EU party, you can only do certain things. It's like what was happening with the Hungarian,
Viktor Orban.
yeah, Viktor Orban of late, where
He
he wanted
he
to do
couldn't
certain
exercise.
things.
He couldn't exercise his democratic right.
Well, he could exercise it, but he chose not to. Of
Yeah,
course,
well,
he could
if he
exercise it.
had exercise, if he had tried to exercise his democratic right, the rest of the EU had promised to wreck his country.
Well, see, if he wanted to still remain in the EU, and of course he realized that, listen, my opinion on this is one thing, but to destroy my
Do you
country,
understand what
no,
you've
the
just said to
benefits are
me?
too much.
You understand
It's
what you've just said to me? It's like
no,
saying, if you vote for the Conservative Party, okay, fair enough. What we'll do is, as the Labour Party, we'll wreck this country. That's not how
no,
democracy. That's not how democracy works. It
no. I
has
know
to
that's
be
not how
voted.
democracy works, but we haven't got true democracy now. It's a you're voting in the same old people with the same rules. There's hardly any difference between them, so you're not getting anything different as such. So it's almost like a strategic way of operating. This is the model you're going to get. You vote within this model. Don't vote outside the model. That's not allowed. That's you're pretending that's real democracy. No, you've got democracy in this little bubble, and that's all you're voting for. Real
Demo,
democracy means you can go elsewhere, but we've only got
Dino,
a
you've got Dino.
Dino. Go on, what's that Dino?
Democracy in name only. So we got Dino. We got Dino. We multi. I told you this, and I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry for whosoever. I'm sorry for whoever's ox is gored. But 2 or 3 years ago, I forget. Must have no, actually, must have been quite a long time ago. Maybe 2019. I traveled to Birmingham by train. Got out at Birmingham New Street station. Came up from the platform. Came up into the upstairs into the concourse, into the station proper. And look, this isn't me a tires hyperbole or anything. I honestly thought to myself, wait a second, where am I? If my something in my brain knew that no, I had been on the train to Birmingham. I hadn't fallen asleep. I did hear welcome to Birmingham New Street or whatever the announcer had said. So part of me was not confused, but another part of me, for a brief few seconds, was, am I in the UK? Where is this? Because it might as well have been Islamabad or somewhere like that, somewhere in the Far East. Everyone in uniform was an Asian, and the ticket barriers reminded me a lot about arriving at an international airport. And you know when you arrive and you go to immigration and you're standing by immigration, and the people standing there were Asians. And I'm looking around me and saying, well, okay, where are the white people? Or even other black people? It was truly like arriving. That was in no sense felt like I was arriving in a British town. Got out of the station with this sort of mindset that what is going on, and the taxi rank from my far left to my far right. I wish I hadn't used those particular expressions. To one side of me, to the other side of me. All the taxis, they were all men with beards standing in non-Western clothing and of Asian Asian origin. So my entire experience just coming into that place, it was like, this isn't even England any longer. By no means. Not by 20%, not by 30%. I'm talking about maybe like 95%. 95%. And I think I'm being generous with the other 5%. Now, that can't be right. There's something gone very, very wrong with integration there. That and the language by the taxi rank, that was not English. That was a different language. I didn't know what the language. I guess it's Urdu, but I couldn't swear to it in a court of law. I didn't recognize it. That's not integration, and that's not whatever multiculturalism means. If that's what it means, I'll count that as a massive failure, because how do you depend on those people and they say, yeah, you've got Britain's back? Yes, we can depend on you.
You can't say that based on just looking at them.
I'm asking the question. Is a reasonable question. Have you guys got our backs? Is that?
And if they have, then what?
Sorry?
If they have, then what?
Then if they have, then the argument fails. That multiculturalism has failed. Is a failed proposition.
No, but if they have got their, if all of them swear allegiance to England, you don't know that.
I'm saying if they do, then multiculturalism has failed. Is itself a failed proposition. That's what I'm trying to say. But I'm asking the question, and so is this show. Has it failed? I think it has, because I think I would expect that multiculturalism would be like the suburbs in New York, where you walk into one place, you hear some Italian going on. You know, you walk into somewhere else, you hear some Dutch going on. And yeah, but oh my goodness, you say something about New York to a New Yorker, you try.
Yeah, they defend it because they're proud of it. But there's a slight difference in America, and I don't think it's to do. Well, I'm mindful of the time, by the way. I don't think it's to do with the multiculturalism per se. I think it's to do with the fact that in America, they're taught from very young to love the flag, love their country, love the city they're in. They're taught that. So they're more patriotic to being in America. So when people go into America, they're swept up by this loyalty, by this patriotism to the US, and they embrace it. Whereas in the UK, we're ashamed of it. We don't embrace it. We don't embrace our flag. We don't put our flag up. In America, every second house has got the flag outside because they're proud to display it, because they're proud of their country. They're proud of being in America. And that's the fundamental problem that alienates different cultures, because they've got nothing to grab onto. We're not proud of being British. We're not proud of who we are. So if we were proud, if we showed that passion to our flag and to being British, other people that came here would feel it too and would want to be part of it. But because we as a nation now have almost become ashamed of our flag, ashamed of being British, how can we expect foreign people to embrace it when the majority of British people don't embrace it at all? And that's the travesty, and that's the problem that has to be fixed first before this other one can be remedied, because they've got nothing to grab onto. That's where we have the problem.
I think I'm going to leave it there. I'll tell you why. I think you just made my own case for me better than I could have. You've just explained exactly why multiculturalism has failed in Europe. Thank you very much for that. You did a beautiful job of proving my point entirely. And
I'm actually in agreement with you, to be fair.
Good.
Because you cannot dilute a population to the nth degree. You just can't. And if you don't have assimilation and integration when foreign people come, you're heading for disaster. And you know, even though different cultures are beneficial to a country, because they are, you want to integrate them. You want to. to benefit from that different culture, to benefit from that intelligence that they bring, to the different ideas that they bring. You benefit. But if you don't assimilate it, how can you benefit from it? And this is the primary problem that we have.
I agree. I'm going to try very quickly.
We're going over time, so you need to sum up here quickly.
Yes, I'm saying what I'm doing, I'm just searching for a phrase. Oh my God. Budget. Oh my goodness, how does it say this? Well, I wanted to try and be funny. I was going to say, don't worry about it. And I was going to try to say it in Mandarin. It looks like BA Danjing. BA Danjing. BA Danjing. So I would say BA Danjing because the way we're going, the Chinese are going to come here and beat the hell out of us and take over anyway. So BA Danjing, hey, don't worry about it.
I could talk more at length, but unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.
Bye.